Sextortion, which is where you have people in other countries sometimes or local to your area that are posing as peers, that are getting kids to send pictures of themselves or videos, and then they are extorting them. Hey, I've got this now. If you don't pay me $5,000, I'm going to put this on the internet and everyone's going to see you naked or however the inappropriate image is. And kids are committing suicide over, oh my gosh, I don't have $5,000 and I can't tell my parents I did this because now it's on the internet and all these things. And so really, really dangerous. Like that is something that parents really need to understand is happening.
Welcome to the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast.
So welcome to another episode of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast. I've been looking forward to having this conversation because it seems like our children are under attack in so many ways. We see it in the nutrition, we see it in education, we see it what's going on with the politics and turning children into social justice warriors. There's so much going on. And we also see a huge problem with technology. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about the trafficking of children, the exploitation of children. And in order to have this important conversation, I have Heidi Chance with me. She worked with the police department for many years. I believe she's semi-retired because she still works with them, but I'll let her tell her story and tell us a little bit about herself.
Yeah, thank you much for having me on, by the way. I really appreciate it. My name is Heidi Chance, and I'm a retired detective from Phoenix Police Department, where I spent 25 years working for that police agency. And I spent almost 14 years in a particular bureau called the Human Trafficking Unit there at the police department. I am still working for a law enforcement agency, but I definitely investigate human trafficking still. So this is really right up our alley in our conversation today. In between retiring from one law enforcement agency and going to another, I did create my own business called A Chance for Awareness, where I am continuing that mission specific to human trafficking awareness, and then educating the public and training law enforcement.
That's fantastic. And the first question I want to ask you, because I have many, but how did you get into this? Because you could have gone any route working for the police department. How did you end up in this specific arena?
Yeah, so in 2007, 6-ish, somewhere around there, I was a school resource officer, a young new officer, only been an officer about 7 years at the time. And I happened to be in the police station one day where I was returning the keys to the police car because I can't take it home. And I happened to pass an area of the precinct called the juvenile holding area. And in that area was a young girl that I remembered when she was in 7th or 8th grade back at the school that I was the officer at. And she saw me, recognized me, and I kind of had a little bit of rapport with her. And I asked her, well, why are you in trouble? And she said that she was under arrest for prostitution. And this kind of hit me, right in between the eyes because, I knew about prostitution, obviously was a police officer, but I didn't realize that that was happening to children. And of course, unfortunately, back then, our response to it was different. And so I was able to kind of watch that evolution of how we respond to this trafficking problem and help, pave the way, at least the way our agency goes, responding to it and working this problem. What I mean to say is initially we were pursuing prostitutes and arresting just prostitutes all day long. In fact, the unit that I worked for had 3 squads, and it had only one female allowed on each squad, one female officer, because the main focus was male officers posing as sex buyers and going after prostitutes. But then that switched, and now we have more female officers than males actually on the squads, and we are targeting sex buyers and traffickers and child predators, the real bad guys. So it's been a very unique experience watching all of that happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the scenery has changed. Before you had men because it was a different environment. You're looking for prostitutes, but in a different area. Now everything has moved into our into our home, basically. You're not going out there looking for people. Now these people are coming into your home. And that's why I want to like point it out to parents, because I'm sure there are a lot of parents here listening and thinking, or kids thinking, what does prostitution have to do with me? My kid's never going to get into that. But let's talk a little bit about detail, because this is closer to home than a lot of parents think. And it starts with this simple little thing right here and everything that happens. And so let's talk a little bit about that and the dangers, because I know that when you and I were speaking, we come from a time where we were afraid of the white van. Whoever is out there listening, you remember that we had that Stranger Danger, all those commercials, and now we don't even see kids playing out in the street because they think that the danger is out there and that their kids are safe because they have their kids at home. But that is not the reality. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So part of what I do now and with my own business is community outreach. And when I'm presenting, I'm speaking to the audience, mostly adults that have probably children or grandparents that are raising their children. And I'm constantly telling them, these are the stats. These are, how this happens. This is sex trafficking. This is sextortion. This is cyberbullying. All of the crimes associated with what's happening to our kids. And I never really talked to them about how to have conversations with their kids. And so that's what I wrote a book about. It's called Talk to Them. And it is basically a guide for parents to, have these conversations, because they're not easy conversations. They're difficult, but they're necessary. Because when I first started investigating, when I actually went to the human trafficking unit in 2009, the average age of entry into sex trafficking was 15. Now it is 13 years old, and it's inching closer and closer to 12, 11 years old, which means those conversations really need to happen often and earlier than parents, want to accept and want to believe, but it is something that has to happen earlier.
Yes, and I'm glad you're doing this, because it seems crazy to me. I know these conversations need to be have had very young, but yet we have this huge debate with the sexual education that's being taught in schools. And a lot of parents think that that sexual education has to do with what maybe is what you're doing, which is creating awareness, but it's not. And it's very confusing. To me, it seems like it's more priming children for these type of abuses, because instead of talking about the dangers or talking about how to have healthy relationships and what is a natural process, they're more talking about the sexual practices, the condoms, what to wear, what not to wear, about masturbation, and they're pushing this on children. I mean, right now I work with an organization where there are states like Colorado who are teaching this to first graders. And so I feel like there's a huge war. And so let's talk a little bit about what you present and the different conversations that you have that need to be had with children. And also mention a little bit about the dangers, because I don't think the parents are as aware. Parents think their children are playing video games. They think that their children are talking to their friends online on a social media app, but they have no idea that that's exactly where the predators are hiding and how they attract their children.
Yeah, so as an undercover, I've participated in chatting with sex buyers, traffickers, and child predators, where I've posed as either an adult or a child. And that is absolutely where it's happening. And then I've conducted investigations involving these instances where I've caught these suspects, and I've done search warrants for my conversation with them. And when I do that warrant, I get access to all the conversations they've had during the period of time that we conversed. And I've literally seen it in black and white, copied and pasted the message that was essentially sent to me to hundreds of other profiles. And they're not just local. Like I've had a trafficker all the way in Orlando that I extradited from Orlando to Arizona to come see a judge for trying to recruit and groom me. So it isn't just local, and it is happening all day long, every day on these platforms. And part of that reason is because these people do not have a normal job. They do not go to work. They manage the victims they have right now and seek out new ones. And so, it's very dangerous. As far as the conversations, um, when I'm talking about my conversations and how they differ from the school, and I don't participate in what the school is doing with their classes, but as an informed parent, I would ask the school, are you teaching my child any online safety as part of these classes? Because that's where they need the education. And I venture to guess you're going to receive information that they're not. That's not part of those classes you were describing. That is the part of the classes that I talk about and teach on, because I do know that I, as a police officer, meet you and your child when the thing has already happened. And that's devastating to me, because if we could have prevented it from happening in the first place, that would be, what's most ideal in these situations. So the only way to do that is for parents to recognize that part of the job of being a parent these days is taking time to talk to your kid about online safety. And when I'm talking about that, I wrote the book to kind of describe some of the things in more detail, but talk to them about how strangers will come into their messages, offer compliments, offer gifts, ask for personal information about you, where you go to school, how old you are, where your parents work, do you have any siblings. If a child is being asked those questions and they've been informed by their parent to recognize that happening, they can self-police themselves and say, wait a minute, that's too much digging into my personal information. I'm not going to continue a conversation with this person because that's not safe. And they'll be able to recognize that, and they'll come talk to you, the parent, and say, hey, I just had this happen. And then you can take action from there. So that is what it's all about for me, is, the knowledge base of, if this starts happening with this person that you call a friend on social media or an app or on a game, and have them recognize this grooming and those things that are happening and the questions they're being asked, and then they can self-police themselves.
Okay, and we're going to be providing a link so that you all can see the book that Heidi has written. I suggest that you all buy it, because I have to say, communication to me, I have so many pet peeves with the education system, but I feel communication is something that should be taught from kindergarten all the way to college, because it's the most important thing. Relationships are the most important thing, the most difficult thing to manage in this world, because if you think about it, everything is a relationship. Our job, we think relationship just our partner or our parents or our children. But if we don't have good communication skills, and if we can't, be good communicators, we're not going to be successful in anything, including in these type of conversations. And usually, I'm speaking as an adult myself. I used to be intimidated. I was afraid to be able to set those boundaries and be able to see, oh, wait, this is appropriate or not inappropriate, because, these things basically just aren't taught to us. But I have a question for you naively. So let's say that I'm, a parent has a teen and is talking to another teen, and the teen is asking them all these questions, which, typically would be normal questions. What school do you go to? With siblings, do you have siblings? What do you do? So how can we detect when to know if it's a safe conversation or if this is a predator?
Yeah, so couple of things. As far as the answer to that, if it is someone they know in real life, then they're considered
Yes.
a friend. That's
Right.
that's what it's got to be. The people that, and these platforms, they call it friends on purpose because they want you to naturalize and accept that, but it's really strangers. This isn't a person you know in real life. So that would be actually kind of alarming if someone was asking that personal information, because you never know who you're talking to. I have catfished several traffickers that didn't realize they were talking to the police. That could be a person saying they're a peer of yours with stolen images on their platform, and you could be talking to a 60-year-old guy that
Exactly.
is, trying to be inappropriate with you. Certainly recognizing that these are, first of all, not friends in real life, and then secondly, when it moves more towards, personal information like, oh yeah, where's your house located at, or what's your cross streets? I mean, that's not okay.
Right.
Or asking to meet up, or Anytime that it moves to a more sexual and inappropriate type of conversation, because that actually happens fairly quickly. When I teach a class that I've developed, it's a digital literacy for parents class.
Yes.
I show a chat between myself posing as a 12-year-old girl and a suspect. And in 20 minutes from, just meeting on this
Yes.
social media platform, he's already sent an inappropriate image of himself and he's asking me to send inappropriate images of myself, knowing I'm 12 years old. So that is something that's happening very quickly, and parents need to realize uh, you need to set boundaries and rules in your home. Do not rely on the school to teach your kids this stuff. This has to be, the job of a parent these days, to stay informed on all the new apps, stay informed on all the new games, the private messaging, those kind of things, and take steps in addition to the conversations to monitor that, check in periodically, rehab these conversations over and over and continually as they grow older, so then that way they can remain safe.
Yes. What you said is true. I don't know if it's a trend, but parents, and I don't know if it has to do with that, we're all so busy today, but we've kind of like given our kids to technology as a babysitter, to school as the educator and the one for the values and the one to teach our kids, our principles and their character. And then we have the therapist for the emotional, for the problems. And I feel like we've just like passed it all down. But this is why we're seeing, if you parents notice, we're seeing an epidemic in youth that we hadn't seen 20, 30 years ago. And I think it's because we're doing that. And again, I don't want to blame parents because I understand that life is so busy and we are juggling so many things nowadays. It's a completely different world than it was 20, 30 years ago. But I do think that all of these factors also play a big role, that there isn't that huge parent-child relationship because the parent is just trusting the system for all of these things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is definitely true. We definitely have a situation where we have both parents working, sometimes multiple jobs, but
Yes.
it is where we need to not rely on other people to do the job of a parent.
Yeah. And another question that I wanted to ask you, because I've seen I don't know if I had told you about a case that I read about a young girl who was in a relationship with a boy from another city. And so she basically didn't know him. She knew him through, of course, internet communications. She had met him on one of these social media apps. And, this was a little different than the story you're saying. And this is why I want to talk to parents, that not all predators work the same. This person took a couple of weeks to get to know this girl, but every 2 weeks there was a lie. So, for example, in 1 or 2 weeks, he was 17, 18, and now 2 or 3 weeks later, when the pictures start coming in and she's like, wait, you look older. He's like, well, I'm in college. Then after she's a month later, she's much more emotionally involved. Then he tells her the truth that he's actually 26, 27 and working. And then after 6, 7 weeks that they're so in love, she actually meets him. And then that's where the huge problem starts. And there was a kidnapping. And this is a true story. So to something like this, what can parents do?
Yeah, I think parents need to first of all recognize that your perception of what a child predator looks like is not reality. I mean, it could be anyone of any demographic, of any socioeconomical status, anyone, male and female. Secondly, as far as this situation, and I don't know how old that girl was, but there are
18.
parental control. 18, okay. For the younger kids, there are parental controls, and there are companies out there like Bark Technologies or Gab, Gabb, Gab Wireless, where they
Yes.
create devices like phones, smartphones. It looks like a swipe screen, like a Droid phone, and Apple-looking watches. And those devices don't have the internet on them at all. They don't even have access to the internet. There isn't any way, because kids know how to bypass parental controls,
Yes.
despite what you think. like my sister says that I can talk about the story, but my niece, who
Yes.
was 12 years old at the time, was able to bypass the parental controls my sister had on her phone, and she had created a secret Instagram. And she had found my sister found that there was men asking her to send inappropriate pictures of herself. So these kids are savvy. They they might even know
Yeah.
technology better than we do these days,
Oh, they do.
and we need yeah, we need to keep in mind this situation where, that the time that they need social media or the age they need social media or even a phone, let's move slowly into that and use these types of devices that will lead up into that, along with the conversations, along with the reinforcement of checking. Like, for example, my own son, who's an adult now, but I remember at 11 years old, I had walked into his room and he was talking to someone online, and I heard this other voice, and I'm like, who are you talking to? This isn't not allowed. This was one of my rules. And I had to, keep checking on him. And he, obviously was communicating with a stranger. It's one of those things where you set the rules in place, put them enacted, and you have to check. You have to, check up on them. Like, he has, when he was younger, he had no expectation of privacy in my house. I could take the door off the hinges. This is my house. I'll go through your backpack. I'll go through your drawers. I'll go through the phone that I pay for you to have if I want to. And this is back before Bark Technologies and Gab Wireless were around. And so we didn't have, these devices that didn't have the internet on them. And it's one of those things where you have to check, and they have to expect that you're going to check, and that they could get in trouble over, violating your rule.
Yes. Well, now you're speaking my you're speaking my language because this, as a coach, this is a huge problem. And again, the girl was 17 because she was going into college and doing college applications. So she hadn't turned 18 yet. So she was at an age where, there could have been some more parental supervision. But what you said is so important. And this is what I see with parents. I try to tell parents, to set these restrictions and these boundaries. And I get a lot of pushback. I actually get a lot of upset parents telling me, how can they deny their children not having this technology when all of their friends have technology? And I think it goes back to a little bit of what's going on social media with this gentle parenting, where now, children can make decisions for themselves. I mean, another topic, but now if you are a 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11-year-old and you decide you want to be a boy, well, now we're going to change your name. And so I feel like there is this trend where the parent is losing their authority every day more and more and more. And I feel like the parents are actually scared. They're actually scared of imposing their authority for several reasons. Now it seems that it's because of legal action for many different ways, but also because they're afraid of their kids hating them. They're afraid of their kids getting upset with them. Now, you as a mom, you said a lot right there in just 1 minute. So I want to talk to you as a mom, because now your child is older. And I tell some of these moms, your children are not going to hate you. I fear that a lot of parents are more worried about being friends with their child because they think that if they're friends with their child, then their child's going to come to them when there's a problem. But I don't see that's the case, because what a child needs is guidance. We're young, we have hormones, we don't have our prefrontal cortex developed. So we actually need that adult to sit there and tell us yes, no, and guide us. So as a parent, can you tell me a little bit about that, and how did you handle that at home with your child? And is your child speaking to you? Or did he stop talking to you as a result that you were such a strict mom?
Yeah, I think I learned it from my dad, because my dad was also a police officer at Phoenix Police Department. And, he worked a lot of times nights and wasn't really home. But I grew up knowing he was the, person that would carry out punishment. And, it's one of those things where if you look at the law in your state, I believe, and in my state, it is that you can use physical force to discipline your child as long as you don't leave marks. You can verify that. But, I got spanked and all kinds of stuff and put in the corner and grounded and all the things. And it's one of those that you have to have punishment. You have to have ramifications for our actions. And so I carried that through to my child. And no, he does not hate me. In fact, he's my roommate. I mean, he lives with me and my husband. And, it's one of those where how can these kids afford to live on their own right now with the
Right.
way the economy is and housing and everything. But he has, to my knowledge, never tried drugs. He's never been arrested. He's mentally strong and just fine and works hard, has good work ethic. He doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. That's the only thing that we're, discussing right now, but that's okay. And he's 22, about to be 23. So I think being involved in that way actually results in a better upbringing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, and I think that's important. So that's what I wanted to make clear, that setting boundaries is something that is so necessary and that every parent needs to do, and they should not be afraid. Like I even tell moms, if your child is young, don't let them, take the phone to the room at night, because I don't see the reason for a 12 or 13-year-old to have their phone after 10 or 11 p.m. at night in the room. I don't care if all the other friends have it, but to me, that's the most dangerous hour. And but let's not even talk about taking away sleep, not being prepared for school the next day, and all of the daily things that it's going to affect your brain function. But now let's talk about safety. And I feel like that is something that is so appropriate, to be able to start setting these boundaries. So what would you tell to a parent who has a hard time setting boundaries or is struggling with their child when it comes to topics like this?
Well, unfortunately, if you don't do that, I've seen the result of that not happening, where kids are getting arrested, kids are getting high on drugs, kids are committing suicide. So you have to make the decision of which route, you need to be able to say as a parent that you did your best, instead of I was a friend to them and I coddled them and then this backfired. And so, everyone has to make their own decision individually on that. But I've seen where it is going bad if you don't make a decision on that.
Yes. And you mentioned coddling, and that is something that is happening a lot today. And we can see that it's obviously hurting our society. It's not helping it. There's a saying, I don't remember exactly how it works, but it says that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And I think that's what we're seeing today. And I think it has to do with the coddling, We are so afraid of our children being hurt. We want to protect them from everything, but somehow it's gone towards the other end. So in your book, you talk to kids. Maybe you could give us a couple of examples so the parents could, take with themselves today and know a little bit like what the book is about, and introduce us on simple ways on how parents could start, having these conversations, because I know that a lot of parents feel very uncomfortable and they don't know where to start. And especially, with many parents who themselves have struggled with, conversations, and who didn't have parents that, were big communicators. So it seems to get passed down.
Yeah. So in the book, and what makes it unique and different is not only my own personal experience as being a mother, but as well as being a detective for 16 plus years now. I modeled it off of how, when conducting an interview with a victim, I get them to tell me what happened to them on their worst day. And so that's how I modeled, the process of going through and having these conversations. And I think that's what makes it a lot different from other books. But as far as some tips, obviously, I talk about specific crimes. So I talk about sex trafficking and the dangers and the threats that are being faced, kids are being faced with. Sextortion, which is where you have people in other countries sometimes, or local to your area, that are posing as peers, that are getting kids to send pictures of themselves or videos, and then they are extorting them, hey, I've got this now. If you don't pay me $5,000, I'm going to put this on the internet and everyone's going to see you naked or however the inappropriate image is. And kids are committing suicide over, oh my gosh, I don't have $5,000 and I can't tell my parents I did this because now it's on the internet and all these things. And so really, really dangerous. Like that is something that parents really need to understand is happening in these conversations that are happening, on the phones, on the devices, on the games, in your house, in your bedroom, and you don't even know that that stress is going on with your child. So I talk through those crimes and then inappropriate images that are now referred to as the child sexual abuse materials, the harmful images referred to as child pornography, and the fact that, if someone's directing a child to create those things, that is, also a crime, and we need to find that child predator and go after them and those kind of things. But the conversations are basically most of the conversations are mostly about having the appropriate setting and time to conduct these difficult conversations and the things to talk about and how to go about asking, hey, I heard this from this social media account and this lady posted this. What do you think about that? And just starting the conversation, not where you're coming at them with a lecture of, I want you to do this, this, and this. It's like a roundabout way of talking about someone else's experience, making it relatable to what point you want to come across with, and then delivering it that way. And then I have like a whole bunch of questions and things to, spark those conversations. And then also questions to discuss about things that predators or sex buyers or traffickers are saying in the conversation. For example, sex trafficking, that is, where traffickers are very finesse and manipulative, and they move into the conversation initially offering lots of compliments, gifts, promises, or ideas of like an amazing life that they're living, traveling, expensive dinners, shopping excursions. They're very flashy on their social media, and all of that's with the intent to make this child have this perception, because perception's everything nowadays, that this is an amazing person, when in reality, none of that's real. And then they develop this whole, well, I like you, and you're too sexy to be, stuck at home all the time. Why don't you come out and see me? I'll come pick you up. And, having discussions with your child about how this whole thing moves along to the point of meeting in real life, to the point of running away from home, really will help them understand it and recognize it when it's happening.
Yeah, and I think the key is what you said. I can imagine, depending what home environment, if a child gets a message like that, I could see one child running to go meet that person. But then depending the other home environment, I could see the child saying, are you kidding? My mom will kill me. Like, I can't do that. Or even just going to their mom and saying, Mom, I don't know, what do you think about this? And so my point about this is, it's exactly what Heidi said, that more than ever, the most important thing is the communication and the relationship that you have with your child. I feel that today, more than ever, parents need to develop a really strong line of communication where your child feels comfortable to come and talk to you for anything. Now, it doesn't mean in the friend sense where, you're going to let anything slide because, you guys are friends, but for them to know that although you're setting boundaries, although there are limits, although you guys have set some values and standards in your home that everybody has to follow, that there is that nurturing and that open line of communication where they know that even if mom is strict, mom knows, and mom wants the best for me, and mom knows best, and I'm going to go to mom if there's something wrong. I think that that's like the most important thing. Something else that you said that I want to touch up on last before we leave is about the photographs. And this is very personal for me because I had a long-term partner, and one of their family members had a 15-year-old daughter who had a relationship. We knew the boy, but they were all in on it and they would all help her. get ready in her room. They even bought her their lighting so that she could take sexy pictures for him. I consider myself to be a pretty open person, but I knew that there was something wrong with that. And not only that, it's like you're sending that picture. Let's say that you know the kid, but you don't think that in one moment of weakness or anger that he's not either, or maybe showing off, is not going to show it to a friend or send it to someone, and then that's going to be on social media. And like you said, I have read articles of children that have killed themselves because they have been threatened. And I even had a friend who is older who got threatened $5,000 because she actually went home with someone and fell asleep. And when she fell asleep, they took horrible pictures of her, and then they were threatening to post them online. So this is something that happens every day. So what can you say about that? You being a mom, what advice would you give when it comes to something like this?
Yeah, that open communication, and in advance of any of that ever even happening, a conversation of, we all make mistakes. And, you again, using the reference of it happening to someone else, if you ever had that going on, I would want you to come tell me, even if you sent the picture. Come tell me so that I can help you and we'll get through it.
Yes.
And then for parents to know, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has the Take It Down. I think it's takeitdown.org or Take It Down something, but you can Google that. And they have a program where they help parents get these images off online, but they can only do so much. Like you said, if it's something that was shared through a text message and screenshotted, we're not going to be able to, find all of those passages and, those texts and things, the way that that's moving around nowadays and how easy it is to share that. So the best thing is to never post anything on the internet that you're not willing to show your mom, and be safe in what you do post, and think before you post. That's the best advice. If you do have a situation where you have had someone post something, or you had sent an inappropriate image, or you had one sent to you, and you want to involve law enforcement, keep in mind that some of these apps, if you log out of it, the whole conversation disappears. And so if you're wanting to pursue prosecution and to show the police when they come to your house, you need to capture it, like take your phone and video screen record whatever's on the device that has the suspicious stuff. Because you know that Snapchat, if you screenshot, it tells the other person. And
Yes.
then, yeah. And so, there's, other things that if there's a conversation and you're wanting police to take on the role of posing as your kid to catch this predator so that you can get justice for your child and so they don't do this to someone else, don't delete anything, don't engage with them, because if you say something the wrong way and they get tipped off, some of these apps, they can delete the conversation from the other side. And so the best is just to leave it, and have the police come and do the capturing of the evidence and the manipulating of the phone. But if you were to grab any of that and really wanted to capture it, take another device to record it. And hopefully you can help the law enforcement officers that arrive, take out these predators. I've done it many, many times.
When it comes to talking to your children, I always tell parents, no matter what they say, don't blow it, because then they'll never come to you again. No matter how horrible it is, just sit there with it and get into, like you said, let's get into solution mode. The worst has already happened. Now all you can do is remedy and fix the problem. And if you handle it that way, you can guarantee that your child will always come to you. This is a thing. Now with social media, there's always somebody whispering inside your child's ear. And you want your voice to be the strongest voice. That's the most important thing. I would like, before us leaving, for you to talk a little bit about your courses, because I want parents to know that they're available. If there's any parent that is having trouble with a rebellious child, or a child that, is addicted to social media, they're having a hard time, keeping them off social media, or there have been some dangers, maybe you could talk a little bit about your courses, what you do, and then I will be putting all of Heidi's information. So if you want to contact her, you can contact her, you can take her courses, and you could also get a copy of her book.
Yeah, thank you. So I have on my website, achanceforawareness.com, I have my Power of Awareness online course that's specific to human trafficking education. It is where I go through that evolution of law enforcement and our response to it and some of the proactive undercover operations that we do to target these sex buyers and traffickers. I go through a section of going through how a victim falls into this lifestyle and having people better understand the manipulation and the grooming and recruitment. I talk about sex buyers and their role in participating in sex trafficking, and then traffickers and how they work, as far as even the platforms, online and social media apps that they are using predominantly. And then I talk through the indicators of sex trafficking where you can recognize some of these things happening to someone you may know and how to report it, which is really important on how to take action about it. And then I even talk about how to get involved in the fight of human trafficking. And so that's my Power of Awareness course. And I created that because I've participated in trials where I have gone in and described a victim freely walking down the side of the road with a phone in their hand, and I'm testifying that they're a victim, and to have a jury wrap their head around this concept of they're a victim when their beliefs prior to me testifying is that human trafficking has to be some incident of an abduction or kidnapping or locked in a bedroom somewhere, and that's not really how this happens. And so very important for me to have informed juries to be able to get these predators held accountable. And then my other online course that I just created is my digital literacy for parents. And it's basically where we'll go through all of the online discussion. It's a perfect complement to the book, and a little bit more detail. Like I said, I do show parents in real time how quickly this chatting happens and some of the tactics that these child predators use to gain personal information from your kids. And I do talk about how to report it and capture that evidence and those things. And then I also have a situational awareness course that I am launching soon, specifically for women and young children. So that should be releasing at the end of October. So right around Halloween, and that is going to be a really good course for, overall situational awareness. Part of before I went to school resource officer and to the human trafficking unit, I spent some time in a program, a police position called community action officer. And that's where I really got to know the community. I did block watch meetings. I talked through, crime prevention through environmental design, where your home, if you look at your home and you have a suspect who's casing around looking at which one they want to burglarize, they're going to choose the one where, let's say, the bushes are overgrown and it's kind of hiding the doorway or the window. And so they're literally going to choose your house based on you not taking care of, the prevention part of it. And so just a lot of that. And then obviously being safe outside of the home when you are, on in a parking lot somewhere or getting gas, and some scenarios and safety tips there. And then, of course, personal information, protecting personal information online, as far as, if you sign up for a new car and then you a couple months later get a VIP card at a shopping center, all of those times that you're re-putting your information into their system, they're selling our information.
Yes.
And that's how we're getting attacked cyberly and everything else. So I go through all of that and talk about, things to not do. I have an affiliation with deleteme.com, which is a service where they will scrape the internet and pull your personal information. If you've ever Googled yourself, I'm sure your home address is on there, your phone number, all that.
It's terrible what's on there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a discount code, achanceforawareness.com or achanceforawareness, no.com.
So it's deleteme.com/a chance for awareness.
Well, if you go to deleteme.com and you choose to purchase their service, you can put the promo code "A Chance for Awareness" in there, and that'll get you a discount. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Go
Same with
ahead.
Park Technologies and Gab Wireless. A Chance for Awareness promotion code works for a discount on both of those companies as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, with all of that, I mean, my book is available on Amazon in ebook form as well as not hard copy, paperback. But I am going to work on an audiobook version, and then I also really have a mission to get it translated in Spanish, because I feel that the education needs to be to other populations that may not speak English. So I'm starting with
Yes.
Spanish because that's the demographic that's prevalent where I live, and so I really think that's important for parents who do not speak English to be able to also protect their kids.
Yeah. You said something really important when you were talking about the house and saying the bushes and that
Yeah.
it's not taken care of. And so predators are going to pick that house as opposed to another house. It just reminded me of the kids because predators know exactly who to attack. It's like when a man is going to rape a woman, he can tell. And I've seen interviews where they say, how they pick their people and they find the weaknesses, they find the weak points. And this is again why I want to mention to parents, because if you have that relationship and those weak points, aren't obvious to the public, you're going to be better able to protect your child. It's just like the home, like you said. And the reason why I
Yeah.
say it about the home is because if you don't have this communication with your kids, if you don't teach them, that's where the grooming takes place. Because what we're seeing a lot today with youth is grooming everywhere. They're being groomed in every single way. And how that works is grooming is just constant conversations. That's the way the brain learns and creates patterns. And if you're having these constant conversations, well, that's what you're lining your brain with. And so there needs to be that counteraction. And that counteraction is you, the parent. And so I want to,
Yeah.
did you want to say something else?
Yeah, if you don't talk to your kids about these things, someone else will. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. So we're going to be ending this interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys take a look at everything that Heidi has put out there. So I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of the podcast. You guys are the reasons why we do this. So don't forget to like, and if you haven't followed us already, please follow us. And thank you so much, Heidi, for this amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it.
You are so welcome, and such needed conversation. So thank you for providing the platform for it.
No problem. And until the next time, guys, have a fantastic rest of your week.
Hey rock stars, that wraps up another electrifying episode of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of incredible minds shaping their destinies in the world of business, solo, and entrepreneurship. Now, before you hit that pause button, I've got some exciting news for you. If you're ready to take control of your life, eliminate anxiety, insecurity, and fear, then look no further. Head over to the teenrockstarentrepreneur.org website to grab your very own copy of the comprehensive 140-page Designer Life Blueprint Teen Workbook. This workbook isn't just a guide, it's a roadmap to unleashing your true potential. Packed with insights, exercises, and strategies, it's your key to crafting the life you've always dreamed of. A life where challenges are conquered, dreams are pursued, and happiness is your companion. So what are you waiting for? Visit teenrockstarentrepreneur.org and kickstart your journey to a life of purpose, passion, and success. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and remember, your journey is just getting started. Until next time, keep rocking and rolling towards your dreams. Hey rock stars, that wraps up another electrifying episode of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of incredible minds shaping their destinies in the world of business, solo, and entrepreneurship. Now, before you hit that pause button, I've got some exciting news for you. If you're ready to take control of your life, eliminate anxiety, insecurity, and fear, then look no further. Head over to the teenrockstarentrepreneur.org website to grab your very own copy of the comprehensive 140-page Designer Life Blueprint Teen Workbook. This workbook isn't just a guide, it's a roadmap to unleashing your true potential. Packed with insights, exercises, and strategies, it's your key to crafting the life you've always dreamed of. A life where challenges are conquered, dreams are pursued, and happiness is your companion. So what are you waiting for? Visit teenrockstarentrepreneur.org and kickstart your journey to a life of purpose, passion, and success. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and remember, your journey is just getting started. Until next time, keep rocking and rolling towards your dreams.